Cek, cek. Ini yang pegang satunya siapa kalau boleh tahu?
Saya Pak Nindya.
Oke, ini linknya ini stream di YouTube ya, udah mulai ya? Atau baru
Iya Pak.
percobaan? Oke, ini saya share ke Bu Endah ya. Mbak Nindya, ini saya share daftar hadir ya. Nanti in case kalau di tengah-tengah, ini daftar hadir buat sertifikat itu loh. Bentar.
Gimana Pak? Maaf.
Ini ada daftar hadir gitu sih. Nanti diminta untuk mengisi attendance list.
Oh iya.
Oke, ini send. Saya kirim ke itumu ya, WA-mu. Oh, ke sini aja kali ya. Di chatnya kan ada. Tuh. Halo Bu Didi, posisi. Halo Bu Didi, posisi neng di. Wah, nyetir. Waduh. Rapopo ki. Ora karo nyetir to iki, mandek to.
Oh, ini mandek. Cuman masalahnya ternyata bateraiku entek. Ya Allah.
Terus.
Lagi aku lagi mikir reso nyolok ke sih aku golek kafe kok ra ono.
Neng daerah ngendi ya saiki?
Daerah endi ki jenenge? Tentara, Jalan Tentara. Kuwi nganu ya UM ya. Oh iya, Pak.
Apa Jogja wae background-nya?
Apa kuwi? Iki sapa wae iki?
Ini udah ada Philippe nih bergabung. Selamat menyapa ya.
Gimana dengan ini? Apakah sama dengan penelitian dokter? Artinya
Hi Philip, are you there?
Hello, yes, I'm there. I'm going to start my video.
Okay, cool.
How are you?
I'm fine, but the weather is really hot.
It's really hot.
Yes, it's 39 today.
Oh, and it's humid.
Yes, and it's humid. Like, my
gosh.
lips are dry all time.
Oh,
It seems like it's
well,
colder now.
it's cold. No, it's relatively warm for the season. It's about 10 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And but now the days are becoming very short.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try to open my document so that we can see if it's working or not.
Sure.
And there we go. Okay. Is this working, Romy?
Wait a minute. Let me check. Yes, it's
Okay,
humble tips. Okay.
Yeah, I like to remain humble. Because if you were to ask someone else, you'll get different tips. So,
I see.
well, slightly different. I think the
Hmm.
core will still be there. Give me a second. I'll get some water, get a
Oh,
pencil,
sure.
and I'll be ready for 10. Okay.
Sure. Take your
I'll
time.
I'll just shut the camera for the time being.
Okay, no problem. Mhm.
Rami, how do you manage to work with such heat?
Sorry?
How do you manage to work with such heat around you?
With the fan? No air conditioner because the electric bill is so high.
I see.
Yeah.
Where's the electricity coming from in Indonesia, or on your island at least?
From water?
The electricity is coming. Okay, it's dammed. So you're
Yes.
using hydroelectric. Okay.
Mhm. Yes, hydroelectric, you're right. And by the way, how do you spell your last name?
Lemay. You can just say Lemay. It's fine.
Lumei.
Yeah,
Poker
Lemay.
or Lumei? Lumei
Lemay
Poker?
Boucher.
Lumei
Boucher.
Boucher. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's relatively easy.
Oh, Lumei Boucher. Okay.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, so the moderator for this workshop would be my colleague. Her name is Didi, so I guess that she's already there. Bu Didi, are you there?
Actually, I'm here,
Oh, okay, great.
but eventually my video, my camera have some problem in here. It seems that all my body is, my face becoming yellow.
Okay,
Really sorry, but I do not know how to make it. Wait, I need some minutes to work it out.
okay, great.
Dapat itu mostly mereka bikin antara 3 sampai 4, jarang ada yang 5. Kebanyakan 3.
Finally, I'm coming out.
Oh, okay. So let
Hello.
me to make your. Oh, okay, at spotlight. Great.
Is it okay?
So, okay, the background is yellow. So, Bu Didi, have you heard my conversation with Philip about how to spell his last name?
Yes, but
Don't worry. You can call me Philippe. It's fine. Don't worry about this. Hello.
Okay,
I think her camera is frozen.
I think so. She's inside the
I will
car.
choose the safe one. I call you Busha. Yeah. Okay. Shall we start or?
I think 1 minute so that it's
Okay,
straightforward.
sure. Okay. We will wait for 1 minute.
Mhm. All right, I think it's already 4 p.m. here and 10 a.m. in Edinburgh, I guess.
It
Okay,
is.
so, okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning for Philip. I guess it's still morning in Edinburgh, isn't it?
It is. There's almost no sun.
Okay, no sun.
It's miserably gray.
Yes, it's gray and cold, but here it's gray and hot, especially
Yeah,
inside the
I
car.
think I wouldn't change with your setup.
Okay. Okay, so welcome to the first workshop in economic research held by Laboratory of Economics Department, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. My name is Romi Hartarto. I am head of Laboratory of Economics Department, as well as the coordinator of this workshop. First of all, I would like to greet our speaker, Philippe Lemaipoch. He's coming far away from Edinburgh. He's currently an associate professor from HWU University, Edinburgh, United Kingdom. And he will deliver humble tips on submitting to development economics journals. And we also have Bu Diah Dewanti. She is a Vice Dean of Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. And she will act as a moderator for this workshop, and she will introduce more about our speaker. Okay, so Bu Didi, I guess the time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Romi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon for everyone in here, and good morning for Professor Philippe. It's very
Good
early
morning.
morning, I know. Okay.
No, that's fine.
Thank you for your time, for joining our activities. I think this is our first event in our department, and I would like to introduce you to the participant, our audience. Associate Professor Philippe Lemaipoch, if I'm not mistaken. Associate Professor Philippe, he came from Heriot-Watt University, Department of Economics. And he has an education background, PhD from Universities of Namur, Belgium, and Master of Science, Economic and Statistics in Free University, Brussels, Belgium. And Master of Art, Economics in Graduate Institute of International Studies in Geneva, and also the BA from Economics and minor in Mathematics. And I read your CV, it's a lot of publications, so that is why we are proposing you to be our speakers for our event today. One of the interesting publication that I really want to hear more about is concerning about the social interaction and technology adoption, and several of the publication concerning the risk-sharing networks, and then social groups and credit shocks, enforcement problem in Rosca, and this is the evidence from Benin and others, many of the publications we already have from Associate Professor Philippe. And grants, wow, Professor Philippe have a lot of research grants in here. One of them is DFID. I think I always reference from the publication from DFID concerning the disaster management and livelihood sustainability. Yeah, he has grants. He received grants on 2017 and then 2020. So I think we would like to efficient our time. We would like to propose Associate Professor Philippe to have this presentations. I think how many minutes, Dr. Romi?
I'm very flexible. I think.
Okay.
So first of all, thank you very much for the introduction. It's very kind of you, and I'm very happy to share my time with you. I have a very flexible format, and I'm used to being interrupted all the time. So if you want to send me or ask or interrupt me, I'm happy. If you want to have the questions at the end, whatever format you use in Indonesia, I'm very flexible.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Philippe. Yeah, probably for all of the participants, if you have any question, you can, sometimes when we are hearing some of the idea and then you want to ask your questions, you can type in the chat and then we can discuss it later on after Professor Philippe already finished the presentations. I think that's format probably for today's event. Okay, today presentations. So next time, the next minutes we will give to Professor Philippe. So, okay, time is yours, Professor Philippe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I will enlarge my screen so that it should be full screen. First, thank you very much for attending. It's very kind of you. I want to say that this is the talk is based on my experience, and it's my experience. So if you were to invite somebody else, you might have different tips. So this is a personal take, and it's humble because it may vary from one individual to the other. I have been a modestly successful researcher, not a hugely one. But anyway, I've got tips because I've been in the business for 14 years now. And I think some of the tips that I'm about to give you, I would have liked to have early on, which bizarrely my advisors at the time didn't sit down and gave me those. I learned them myself. Anyway, so this is about submitting to development journals. I do not know much. I have submitted to some larger or more general outlets, for example, European Economic Review or other journals in the US, which are not specific to development, but my talk is very much about development economic journals. Yes. So there's my email address. If you have any question after the talk, please do send them to me. I will be very happy to answer them. So I start from the question, what journal you may want to target. And there is now a very large number of journals in the field of development economics. And the main question, once you've got a paper you think is of good standard and you think there's enough to be sent, and then you will ask, well, which one should I target? This discussion needs to happen first with your co-authors, if you've got any, or I would recommend with your line manager as well. So in my case, the first question that is important is, does your employer have a ranking in mind? Nowadays, in the United Kingdom, there is a review of research every 5 years, more or less. I want to say that it's a complete pain, and I doubt its usefulness. But anyway, this assessment of research exercise, which takes an enormous amount of time for all universities, imply that there is a ranking of journals. So if you publish somewhere, it has more value than somewhere else. So that means that the employers now have a strong look or are influenced by where you target your submission. So if your employer has one, then it might be interesting to have a look at this ranking and perhaps target accordingly. Now, this is not something that I like myself, because I find that there's many nice journals in development which are not ranked in the UK, for example, or have very poor rank. So they could be left out. So the ranking that I have in mind for the UK institution is called the ABS ranking. So it's listed here under number 1 in the middle of the slide. Heriot-Watt and other UK institutions are heavily influenced by the ABS ranking. So you could have very nice journals in anthropology, which would accept journal articles or submission with a little bit of empirical estimations or some based on the data set. And these publications or journals will have virtually no value in that ranking. And that I think is sad. Australia has its own ranking. I know my friend and co-author who lives in Milano in Italy has its own ranking. The Canadian and US institution, all of them have their rankings. So have a look at this, and maybe it's a good idea to target accordingly. Again, I want to emphasize, this is not me telling you that because I think it has value. It's because it may play in your favor with your employer. And by that, I mean, if you want eventually to have a promotion, or, it might be useful. The second question that we may ask is this the first submission for this paper? And this discussion can apply to a paper which has already been submitted. If the answer to that is yes, so it's the first time, you broadly have two strategies. The first one is to target a highly ranked journal in the hope that you will not be desk rejected. So I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with the publication process. Maybe shall I cover this briefly? What is the overall process? Is that something that would be interesting, or you all know about this?
I think it's interesting to be shared how the
Okay.
process. Yeah.
So I do not have a slide about this, but I'm happy to share. So you send your paper, and it's now on a platform. For example, the Journal of Development Studies, they have their own platform. The editor is Taylor and Francis. The editor will allocate the submission to another associate editor. Usually that's the way it works. And this person will have a quick look at the paper and decide if it's worth sending it to referees. If they decide it's not worth, then it's rejected, and it's called a desk rejection. And the desk rejection can be very quick. And there are some people which are not mute. So a desk rejection can be very quick. Some outlets will take about a month, less than a month, depending on how efficient they are in dealing with the submissions. And if it is worth their time, then they will try to find referees for you. And this can take, depending on the field, if it's niche or not, it can take a few weeks, if not months. So I have had submissions which were standing with the editor for a few months because they couldn't find referees. Either the referee initially, one was asked and he refused, or took time to answer. And then it's just prolonging unnecessarily the procedure. So maybe I should say that when I discussed the publication process in economics with other friends in other disciplines, for example, hard sciences or engineering, it's a sad thing to realize that economics is very, very slow. It is very slow and is often unhelpful. My experience is mixed. I have had very good experience with some journals, and I've had very disappointing ones, but I'll come back to that later. So anyway, once the referees have been selected, usually they have a month or 3, depending on the journal, to submit back their report. The editor will look at the reports and decide, yes, it's a clear rejection, in which case you receive an email back saying, thank you very much, but we won't publish. Or it's usually a revise and resubmit. So you would have revisions to be made. It's very, very rare that you do not get any revision. I have never had that myself. Maybe it's because I'm not good enough, but I've never heard a case like that in 14 years. So if it's good enough, you get a revise and resubmit, after which you are given the reports, and you can reply to the reports, and then you start a game of ping pong where you reply to the referee's requests the best you can. But I'll come back to that later. I've got a slide on this. Anyway, so that's the overall procedure where you submit, quick or not desk rejection, it's sent to referees. There is a report published or sent back to, usually, if not 3, some outlets will have 3 referees. And after that, the editor decides to move on or just simply to reject. Okay, so that's the overall procedure. To give you an idea, maybe you've not gone through this. If some of you have, well, it can take a few years. It's a very long procedure. I'll give you an example that I have at the moment. I have a revise and resubmit with World Development, which is a journal that receives a large number of submissions per year. We will have a look at the data later on. And it's managed by a very small team. So even when you submit, it will take a few months for them to decide. And once it's decided, then they will try to find referees. And so the procedure is so long because they're overwhelmed by the number of submissions. And in the end, We had to wait 9 months before receiving the first set of referee reports. Then we submitted 3 months after the revisions. And now we're still 4 months after the revisions, still waiting. So it's close to a year and a half, and we don't even know if it's going to be published or not. So it's a long and frustrating at times procedure where you think, why is it not going faster? It's because some outlets are overwhelmed, some are poorly managed, but I'll come back to that. So the two strategies that I can highlight here is go high in the hope that you will not be desk rejected. And if you're not desk rejected, then you can get a good set of comments from referees. Now, this implies that if it's a good journal, you will get good comments. It's not always the case. So, some referees who are prestigious researchers or well-known in their field either will not take much time to read your piece and will quickly destroy it or not, but it's likely not to be very constructive. In some cases it is, but there is overall a correlation between the quality of the journal, its reputation, and the quality of the reviewing process. So the quality of the referee reports. So if you get those feedbacks, even if you're rejected, you got some good feedback and you can build on this. So after that, you go to number 2 and you say, you move on to another target once you receive those feedback. The other strategy is under number 2 in that slide is you go lower and then you think I will receive comments and then maybe that will allow me to go higher to a better ranked journal. I would like to apologize to talk consistently about ranking. I do not like this. It's not something that I enjoy. I would like the rankings to be not to exist, but they are there. And the ranking is very much about if you publish something, do people read it? Essentially, that's what you want. If you work on something, you want your piece to be read. And if you publish, for example, in World Development, it will be read. People will notice. And that's interesting for you because you've worked on that piece for a long period and you would like it to be, to be read. So that's, in a sense, it's normal to talk about that. Right. Something that I hinted above and is important is the correlation between the quality of a journal and the quality of the feedback. So in my experience, there is a correlation, but I have had poor reports from very prestigious outlets to the extent that I thought, well, they've not read very well the paper. It's not very well done. So I do not have a large number of submission to very high outlets, but I have about 5, and I thought some of them were good, but on the whole, it's not as spectacular as you would expect. I have had very good constructive feedback from mid-ranked journals. Journal of Development Studies, for example, is one that I like very much because I think it's well managed. I come back to that later. I have comments on some specific journals. And if you target low-ranked journals or relatively unknown journals, then yes, I have observed that the quality of the feedback is often poor. That's sadly the case. Referees are either not really knowledgeable about the field or not very good empirically, so they cannot make very good comments. So there is a correlation with that. I am just realizing that now that there is no slide in my set of presentation about the journals which are soliciting your submission. There is a name for these journals in English, which escapes me at the moment, but these are journals which are, if I may call them, quite dubious. There are many of these in Asia. There's some of them in South America, but you will receive emails from them saying, please, can you send your material to us? We would be very happy to try to publish it. These journals have very, very little impact, if nothing. So it's like fishing. It's not a criminal activity by no means, but they're trying to attract your work because they would like to have submissions and they would like to keep producing the journals. I keep receiving those emails on a monthly basis. It says, oh, Philippe, you're so good. You've published there. Would you like to send your newest piece of work there? And of course, I ignore that because I don't want to send my work to these places. So essentially what I'm trying to say is that if you are aware of these and you know they exist, please avoid them. Rami, do you want to say something about these? Is that something that people know around your place?
Sorry, so far not yet.
Okay, you've never, okay, because these, I'm maybe what I can do if we have a little break, I'll try to find an email like this. And usually I delete them. So I'll try to see if I've got a couple left, but you'll see what I mean by that. So be aware when you're solicited or you receive an email asking you to send your work, be aware this might not be good for you. Because you work hard on a piece of paper, you want it to be published in a good journals, which will be read. Right. So this is about it, about the feedback. There is an interesting link which I would like to open later. Maybe we could do that after I finish this slide, which talks about the quality acceptance rates and how much time journals do take. And this is nice to have this information because in the past, I remember when I started in 2007, we didn't have such information. This is very nice information to have because it gives you an idea of the acceptance rates and so on. So I want to finish this slide and I'll go to that link so we can explore it together. So my own, yeah, there is a question, maybe. No? My own experience with the few ones that are listed here is that world development is very slow. It's a frustrating outlet, but it's highly rewarding if you publish there. Journal of Development Studies is very well managed. The editor is professional, will follow closely the submissions, and you get usually good feedbacks. And the turnaround for papers is relatively quick, say a year, less than a year, which is nice. The Journal of Development Economics is well managed and can be quick. If they think the paper has potential, they will review it quickly. That can be quick. And desk rejection also are quick. The Journal of African Economies, I'm not sure if it's of any interest to you because my work is based on data set that I collect in West Africa. And maybe you focus more on Asia, so maybe this journal is of little interest to you. But anyway, Journal of African Economies, which is managed by the Center of Research and Development Economics at Oxford, is well managed, but it has a very low acceptance rate. We'll see that in a minute. There is a journal which is growing and is very quick, is well managed, and it has potential. It's called the Journal of Development Effectiveness. So let me stop sharing this application and I will open this link so we could go and have a look at the web page. So I'll stop sharing and I'll open the, I'm not sure I can open a web page. In Zoom. Is that something that I can do?
Maybe you can share screen and then screen or pick the one.
Okay, I'll try this. I'll try. It's open now. Let me just try again. Share screen. Is this working?
Yeah,
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. So maybe I can right. So this is a blog by a well-known development economist, David Mckenzie. He has published extensively, is very productive, very qualified, a man to trust, and he's gathered these information. So I will just go over a few tables with you. The first one is the impact factor. The impact factor is the number of is the mean number of sites in the last year. So it's the mean number of publication, sorry, of citations in the last year. Okay, and this is a running average over 5 years. So you can see that world development is almost 4, and it goes down the list all the way to say Journal of African Economies, where it's 1. Okay, so we're not talking about journals like the Lancet or Nature, which have tremendous impact if they're well read. This remains relatively humble, and I think our field should remain humble in that sense. I said the number of citation is quite small. Okay, and you've got the 5-year impact, which is the running average. Sorry, this is slightly higher, but if you take the number of citation is the past 2 years, so impact factor is 2 years and 5 years impact factor. Anyway, the REPEC rank, I'm not very interested in that. REPEC is a website which has a lot of information about economists and journals. So maybe you would like to type Google REPEC and you'll have tons of information about that. This is the box plot of citation of article published in 2019. So you see there's a huge difference in terms of journals at the bottom here, where you have Journal of Development Efficiency, which has a small number of citation, and American Economic Review, which has a large number on average, so about 100, and it can go up to 250, close to 250. Okay, so world development is close by. It has an average of around 20. Anyway, this gives you an idea of the spectrum. Now, the acceptance rate, this is you've got the annual submission and you've got the annual number of paper published. So this is out of all the submission, how much are published per year. So there is a gap between, of course, submissions and published, because submissions are published many years after, often a good year, if not 2. So there's a follow-up, but anyway, it gives you some idea. So you have huge outlets like World Development, which has 4,350 submission. That's more than 10 per day. It's a huge amount of submission. Other outlets, which are Journal of Development Economics, also famous, almost 2,000. You see, you've got these figures here. I think it's interesting to have that, to know what it is. Now, I would like to make a comment on World Bank Economic Review. This journal, I have tried a few times to submit there, and I have always been desk rejected. It may be because my papers are not good enough, but I think it's because I'm not in the network of people around the World Bank. That's my suspicion. So I'm avoiding that journal altogether now because I have got the message. Anyway, this might be my own experience. I don't want to, overemphasize it, but that could be the case for you. So that journal to be perhaps avoided. And then you have the annual number published. There you go. And then you have the acceptance rate. acceptance rate in percentage. So you see, it's a rough game. It's a really, really rough game. So you have world development, 9% of papers are accepted. And an outlet which is relatively humble is the Journal of African Economics, has an acceptance rate of 3%. Whew. So maybe if you have a piece of paper and you want to submit and you think, well, this is okay, it's not that good, and you may try journals which have higher acceptance rates initially, and then you build up and you get to a stage where you think, well, I've got some good material now, maybe I can move to something which has a lower acceptance rate. Now, I do not want to sell those figures. I am not behind those tables, but I think this information for people starting to publish is interesting. I would have liked to know about this when I started in 2006 or 7. And here comes something a bit demoralizing, if I may say. It's the time for review at different development journals. So you see the desk reject rate is quite high. So don't take it personally if you're rejected at the desk level, where it has happened to all of us. And once it is passed on to referees, then you've got the acceptance rate after that. So this is a clear message. If you are sent to referees, if your paper is sent to referees for a revise and resubmit eventually, it's not a given game. You can be still rejected, and the odds are against you, okay? It's still a small fraction of papers which are sent to referees, which are then accepted. And then the mean time to first decision, well, this is I like the second column on this is conditional going to referees. And you have world development is just very, very slow, 168 days. So that's mean time, mean time. So 6 months mean time, okay? I have to say that this again, I used this word before, but it's discouraging. Some people are just very slow and sitting on paper, and you think, what's the point? So we would like to have a more active and quick procedure, but it's not the case, okay? Anyway, so that's table 3. And open access, I'm not interested in that. I think that's us. And here's a picture of David Mckenzie. Anyway, if you like this site, if you like the information, please come back. David Mckenzie produces that every year. So you can go back and enjoy it next year. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slides. There we go. I hope you can see them now. Is that the case?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Now, I wanted to talk about something which is of interest, is your name and your institution name. In a perfect world, that wouldn't matter, because you would just send your paper and the editor would look at it without looking at your name and looking at where you're located. But then it's not a perfect world, and the institution name, your affiliation, does matter. It means that a very prestigious name will make it more impressive, and a less so is not going to help. So if you are like me, from a regional university not known outside the country, so Harriet Watt is well known in the UK, but is not known outside the UK. If I send something to a journal which is in North America or elsewhere located in Europe,
Seems like the presentation is lag.
Yeah. I cannot hear anything and freezing.
I think it's freezing.
Yeah.
So I should contact Philips. Should
Yeah,
chat.
I think some problems.
Yeah.
Hello,
Okay.
can you see the presentation?
Yeah. Finally.
Okay.
Okay, right, is it working? If I move up, can you see still the consider the time involved? And then I move down
Yeah.
here, does the, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's okay.
Please tell me if I may have some wobbly internet here at home, sadly. But anyway, what I'm saying with this slide is that the name of your institution does matter, sadly. So if you want to submit, the editor will have a few minutes on your case. It's not going to spend much time, sadly. That's the way it works because of the sheer volume of submission that do come. So what I recommend is that you perhaps set up a nice Google web page, which has your work, your publication, if you've got any, so that maybe, I'm not saying this is the case always, but maybe the editor will have a look at it and locate you and see, oh, this person is submitting. So this person has a background. And again, I emphasize in the perfect world, this should not matter, but it does, because there is so many submissions being made that the editors often will go by the name, or if they know someone, or if they heard about this, right? So this is imperfect, but that's the way it works. There was an article in the BBC recently, so that's the British Broadcasting Corporation. And it was a lady who works at the in a medical field in the University of London, and she was saying that they could not verify the affiliation of a very large number of people who submitted. I think the proportion was close to a third. She was hinting at the fact that maybe some people were just making up affiliations, which may sound more prestigious, which are not verifiable. And this lady was making a good point, saying that it's difficult for an editor to spot this because some information is unverifiable. And if I write on my submission an affiliation which is bogus, which is not right, but is prestigious, then I may increase my chance of getting through the process. I'm not saying this will get me through, but it may at the margin help me. Okay, so you see this is again in this idea that name is a signal that is used. As far as I'm concerned, I have a Google page which is set up. I list what I do. So if someone outside the UK say, oh, Philippe is doing something, I've never heard of that guy, neither of that university, maybe a quick Google, he finds me, I say, oh, he's done something in the past, so maybe I can trust that. And then that will give perhaps a more favorable image or impression. Again, I do not want to say this is a guarantee for you to move to the next stage, but it may help. And I have not said, please give a fake affiliation. This is not what I've said. I've said, stick to something that is clear and you present yourself. And if you've done work in the past, please advertise it. It may play in your favor. Now, to improve your chances of being accepted in a journal for publication, after 14 years, there is really just a few tips that I like to make. And if you don't like my tips, you can just bin them and ignore them. But if these are the tips that I've learned and I thought were not that important, but they are, is the fact that you have to be extremely clear with what you're doing. You have to write clearly and take the reader by the hand. You would be amazed by the fact that some people who are very good researchers will read you quickly and think, what's happening? I don't understand. And time again, I have received rejection in the past where referees were saying, it's not clear what you're doing. But for me, it's extremely clear. I've written it. I've been working on this for months and years. Why don't you understand that? It's because it's not clear enough. So what I spent a long time before submission is making sure that my introduction is bulletproof, is very, very clear. And I can use simple English just to make that point and help my chances. So I clearly state my research question. I have a clear narrative of what I do, how I do it, and what I'm bringing, what's the added value of my work. And again, this is very important. And if I can sum this up, we are all sellers. We're selling something. I'm peddling. I'm trying to sell this. Hey, this is interesting. Please have a look at this. But the people at World Development, they receive almost 5,000 submission. So why is it that mine should go through? And well, you need to sell it. And that's very important. So you sell your paper by saying, this is an important topic. Few people have looked at it, or many people have looked at it, but I'm adding this. And this, I think, is a good addition. And if you are good at selling, your paper is likely to have better chances of at least going to referees. Okay. I cannot understate this. This all the time now, I receive comments like this. This is not clear. What is he doing? And it's frustrating because you think, well, why is it not going through? It was clear to me, but guess what? It's not clear enough. So if you think repeating an argument or making it clear in a very small English sentence, go this way. It has to be clear. Now, another tip linked to this is if you're not a native speaker like me, my first language is French, and I learned English quite late. And so first papers that I wrote, it was obvious that I was not a native speaker. People could detect that. There was some English language issues. It was not well written. In French, we have a way that is quite convoluted of writing stuff, long sentences. In English, it doesn't work. It has to be short sentences, efficient. So I've changed all this, but if I can, I like to have a native speaker who has preferably a background in economics who would read my paper. And if you don't have the money nor the time for the whole paper, at least the introduction. And I have seen departments in Norway, Luxembourg, and even Italy who have someone who is just paid to do this. So in Italy, my friend, there's a whole bunch of Italians. Italians write rather poorly in English, unless if they're good and they've been trained at it. But they've got a paper, they send it to that person, that in-house person, that person spruce up the paper, improve the paper, and then it's submitted. I am not sure if your units or departments or university have the money for this, but this is something that could be invested in. This is a message to anyone here who is a line manager. This is something that would very much improve the chances of being successful. Yes, you need to have a good abstract, a very good introduction, clear, it sells. Otherwise, you'll have a quick desk rejection. Now, you get a revise and resubmit. Nice, that's a good first step. But it's not game over. Please don't be sloppy in your answers to referee report. Write them long and detailed answers. Now, I do not have the time now to go over a report and the answers that I have provided for an example, but I could do that if you want me to in the future. And you would see, wow, often you write a full paper just answering the questions. Someone would say, I'm not sure about this estimation. Could you try adding other variables? What about this other techniques that you're using? What would happen if you do this? Sure, I'll try that for you. And then you explain what you're doing, you show the results, and you say, you know what? The results are the same, but you've showed everything. The more transparent and exhaustive you are, the better your chances of being accepted. And this, again, is a lesson that I learned the hard way. You have to give them a lot to satisfy them, to really make them feel that you've tried to answer their question as much as possible. Because nowadays, what you often have is two rounds of revise and resubmit. I have had 3. So at some point you become tired, but never get tired and be as exhaustive as you can. And at some point, the editor will say, that's fine. Everybody is happy. It's going to be published. Okay. So the second point I put here is thorough answers can minimize the risk of having a rejection first, or second, other rounds of revisions. So once you get an R&R, it's far from game over. As we've seen from the website, the acceptance rate hovers around 30%. So it's not a done deal. It's a slow process. So please do not get discouraged. It's long and slow. When I finished my PhD, I had no publication. I had no nothing. But I had worked in Africa for a long period and I had good data. So people at the time in my department, they thought, well, the data that he's got has potential, so maybe down the road he will publish. But I only got a paper accepted 3 years after, and it was almost a 3-year reviewing process with a journal called the Oxford Bulletin of Economics and Statistics. But I think that if I would go on the job market now in the UK, I wouldn't be successful because now there's so many people in the markets with publications or paper accepted that it's a tough game. Anyway, if you're in your PhD now, if you can have a revise and resubmit by the end of your PhD, this is a good step. But do not think that you're game over if you do not have a publication at the end of your PhD. This is the case of the vast majority of us. Now, the strategy, this is also important. Is it better to work on one single promising paper that you think is good, or work on a number of less so? You know, sometimes you know that a paper you work on is not fabulous. The results are not particularly original. The data set has been used. You don't feel it's a sexy topic or it's interesting. People like to hear about it. I have had that. Everyone has had that in the past. It's fine. Now, maybe you can discuss that with your line manager. I think it's nice to have a discussion about this. My take for young researcher is that it's better to have one solid paper and have one that is accepted than several ones which are unlikely to be. Okay? Because if you get one accepted or one publication, this is going to help you for different things. Now, having in mind that you have your Google website, which says clearly this is your publication, then that's going to help you for grant application. It's going to help you for future submissions as well, because as I said, an editor who doesn't know you, nor your institution, will have a look online, will Google you and say, oh, okay, Philippe has had a publication there, maybe it's not that bad. So let's give him a chance. It's the way it works. And I think that's me. I had only 11 slides. So I'm not sure if, yes, I am very happy to finish now because that leaves time for questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Philippe. I think it's quite it's interesting. It's make me understand. And sometimes in my thought it will be if I sent my paper into some of one of the journal, and they will say, who is Dia Dewanti? I'm just afraid that they will just say, who is Dia Dewanti, and search my Google Scholar. Hopefully I can. But this is the challenge for us as a new beginner. I think me as a new beginner for making the publications.
Yes,
but
and
it seems,
if I may add, some journals want to have submission from developing countries like Indonesia. Some
Okay.
journals will say, hey, we won this, because that's where it should be coming from as well. So
Mm,
you could find those. It's not that easy, but that could play in your favor. And secondly, don't get discouraged. I have been rejected. I have had very bad comments in my face, but hey, that's the way it works. So
okay.
don't get discouraged. I
And
have
don't
had
feel
comments
afraid.
saying this is of no interest.
Yeah.
Who's this person? He doesn't know how to read and doesn't know how to write. The estimations are so poor. And it's a lottery, because you cannot do much with that, but you send it somewhere else and you may have more success.
Yeah, that's a good advice for me too. I think we have a questions from the chat box from Hasanuddin, and after that, probably I will have another questions for Professor Philip. Mr. Hasanuddin asking that how to make a good outer cover letter when we want to submit the article. So it's concerning the outer cover letter, because we also usually we have to make it right before we
Yes. So some
submit a
journals
paper.
ask for a cover letters.
Indeed.
There are many journals who do not ask for cover letters.
Mhm.
You know what I would do is I would just have maybe I could send one. I could send one to Romy, and maybe that would be an example. But it's essentially, dear editor, thank you for your time and reviewing this. You know, you're polite and you say, we think we have this interesting piece of work here on this topic where we show this. Is that possible for you to consider it for publication? So you take bits from your abstract and you present what you're doing.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
And
yeah.
being polite, but it shouldn't be long. It should it shouldn't be 2 pages where you talk about this and that. No, be quick and efficient, saying this is what we're doing. Thank you for your time. We think it has potential. Thank you for considering.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's good. Mr. Hasanuddin asked a reply that please share it, Professor. Please. So humble
Okay.
after this. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll send it to Romy. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's
I
probably
think
okay.
that's okay, or you can alternatively upload it on the chat column, because there is a feature to upload file.
I would need to find it. It's not going to be an easy thing,
Need
so
time
I'll
to
do
find
that
it.
after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't forget for the participants to fill the attendance list, because after this we will send the author cover letter, right? Which is actually the example that Professor Philip already have. So do not forget to fill the attendance list, okay? And the second question is from Mrs. Ratno Sukiyarti. Have you ever used proofreading service, sir? Is there any recommendation for having the proofreading service to support our paper? Please, Mr. Philip.
So I have not, because I live in the UK and there is plenty of native speakers.
Yeah.
I have not used professional services. I have used friends.
It's better for friends.
Or I have used
Taking it.
students. I have used good students and I pay them. And I think it's better for me, because you need to have someone who is trained in economics, because some expression, marginal costs and all this are difficult to make sense of with some professional services. But I think so I have no recommendation for professional services, and I think it would vary greatly between one country to the next. So if I suppose I was now to fly to Indonesia and work there, and I would be the head of a small unit, to help my team, I would try to find someone around that is native speaker or as very good level, native speaker level. And I would have a contract with that person, and I would say, look, we will feed you with all these papers.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. But for Indonesia, usually because it is the native speaker, English is quite a challenge. Also, some of us for the researcher. But yeah, I think for Professor Philippe, probably mostly the keywords when we are writing. Sometimes when we are trying to describe, we already understand, right? But sometimes people who read it need some clearance, something like that, right? Probably that's the that
No,
we
it's,
need.
I mean, we're all being disadvantaged because
Yeah.
it's not our language, and I understand
Mm.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
it's unfair, but it's the way it is. Because
Yeah.
if you publish in Indonesian, then
Indonesia.
you're
Only certain people.
yeah, you're limited. You're limited.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And the next question from Dr. Enda Sabtutinengsi, which one is better? We start at the highest rank or lower rank of reputable journal? Which one is better if we start to publish? So,
It depends if you're. I have never been accepted at first submission. So it may be me, but I think it's also exceptional.
including me.
So that means I know I will be rejected. So now what I'm doing, I'm going lower. That's my strategy.
Okay.
Because I have already a permanent position. So I don't need to, show the world that I'm good. I have my CV, I have got a permanent contract. So I can use that strategy but I think it's better to go low.
Low first.
Because you're very likely for either language issues or different issues to be rejected. That's my strategy now.
Yeah. I think I think some of us is also have the same strategies. We found that some of our colleagues also choose that even though it's a Q1, the quartile one from the Scopus indexes, but we found we choose we start from the low rank. I mean the low index impact factors. we're trying to. We know that our weakness sometimes including our languages. So it's yeah, I think lower rank. I also agree with your strategies. Okay, thank you.
But again, it's very important if collectively as a team you realize maybe you should have a meeting after a year or so. You say, what are the reasons why we've been rejected? If that's the case, if you've been successful, great. If you've not been successful, and you think that the language issue is coming back often, that is something you need to address.
Okay. Professor, sometimes since we are starting from the low rank, when we are feeling that we are ready for the next journey for having the highest rank, when it will be ready?
So you receive comments from this low rank journal.
Yeah.
And you go over it and you take what you think is constructive and helpful and you improve.
Okay.
Sometimes there's a referee report which is just so bad that there's nothing you can take out of it. It happens. But there are sometimes you're rejected, but you think, oh, that's a clear rejection. I need to improve. Thank you very much. I will improve. And you hope to get these type of reports. If that's the case, then you go back to the paper, you improve as much as you think is good for you and the paper. And once you're ready, you resubmit.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but you cannot submit at 2 journals at the same time. I'm sure people knew about I'm sure people knew about that. But so bear in mind, if you go for a highly ranked early on, it may take some time before you get accepted or rejected. So if you get rejected after a year, you think, oh, that's a long period for me. Specifically, if you're early on in your career, it is better to maybe go lower and then start to grow from there.
Yeah, because sometimes we play safe. From Mr. Hasanuddin said that it's depend our instinct, but sometimes we some of our lectures playing safe, right? Playing safe go always on the lower impact, but sometimes when we are having like a collaboration with someone from our probably with the our team from the Heriot Watt University, so it will be build our self-confidence to improve our high rank impacted journal that we can choose, something like that. Okay, is there any questions again? Since we already have limitation of the time before in here, almost Maghrib, almost the almost getting dark, sir. But it's almost, but not yet. Okay.
Or maybe if anyone wants to post the questions directly.
Okay, yeah. You can raise your hands or directly you just open the microphone. Yeah, I remember that the first time I start with my paper publication is starting from the very lowest one. The lowest one, I think it's not the low one, but the lowest one. As the actually the first time my experience was as the what is that obligation for my PhD. So my PhD have to finish two Scopus index. And after that, we also have the predatory, black bellies predatory also. No, now it's quite challenging for several of the colleagues if they have to choose a very carefully paper, also journals, and also publisher, which is not what is that stated as the predatory, something like that. Yeah. Or do you have any?
That's the word I would. Yeah, that's the word I wanted to use. This is these are the journals which come to you and they want your work, but it's a poor outlet. Ignore them.
Yeah, yeah. So
there are many from China. I've got a lot of email from China.
India, sir, a lot of from India too, I think. I receive a lot of from Bangladesh and India.
Okay, there you go.
And I'm just like, okay. Okay, almost all journalists.
There's a comment here.
US.
It says almost all journal list in US is quaint to get past submit.
Yeah.
Right. So it's difficult to pass some. Yeah. So it's you get a lot of desk rejection. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I understand it's a rough game. It's really tough. So there is first people in the US will work there, have tremendous pressure to publish early in their career. So they submit a lot and quickly, and so there's a lot of pressure on people. It's well known that one of the profession which has the highest rate of depression in the US is assistant professor.
Yes, they did.
So if you get rejected, either perhaps the language is poor, you're not selling it enough, or maybe the paper is not promising enough, but don't feel you're alone in this. We are all rejected.
Yeah, we have passed.
Here and there. I remember, I want to add, maybe for your time is counting now, but the I was with a rather well-known professor in political science, and he said he never gets accepted at first attempt, and the average number of submission before acceptance is about 4 or 5. So
okay,
we're trying, it's not working, we're trying again, we improve a little bit, we tweak, we send again, and we do that until it finds a place.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, Mr. Asdi, Khalifani Asidiki. Oh.
Okay, let me read that one. I can read it.
Before submitting that one.
I would like to ask more about about the manuscript things. Let's say how to find a proper research gap from previous studies. Oh,
Mhm.
that's about doing research, but it's not really about trying to submit. So we would need another session on this. I think you get something out of various things. I think I don't want to answer this because it could be a long answer, and maybe you all want to go home. So this is for another day.
Okay.
Yep.
I
We
think
we
we
could
also
do that
have,
another day.
yeah, we can asking your time another time to have another workshop. We
I
have
would be happy.
one question from Kalifani Asidiki. Before submitting to journals, should we get feedbacks as many as possible by submitting to many conference?
It's a good question. I don't really think conferences are useful.
Mhm.
I maybe some people hearing this are going crazy, but my experience is that there are very few people attending, and there are very few people in your field. And I have traveled to different good conferences or they were known to be good, and I've never had much feedback from. So I get feedback from seminars where you present full-fledged your paper. So maybe if you want to do that internally, that's the best practice, where you have where you go and you present for a full 30 minutes or an hour and you get full feedbacks. But my experience from conferences, it's only for networking. And now, since I don't need to network and I have a large family, I have no time for conferences.
So
And
yeah,
it's not playing against me.
yeah, agree with that. Better to have the feedback from seminars. I saw some of the roundtable of seminars in our same background. For example, for me, my background is concerning the health economics. So working with the expertise in global tobacco control, it's also receiving a lot of comments from them. I agree with you. Okay, thank you. Wow, I think everyone is agree, Professor Philippe, to have another session with you.
Good.
To have the research gap session. But I will propose to Dr. Romy first.
So I'm happy to come back. Maybe you don't want to see me every month, so maybe we can wait a little bit. But I think a session about answering referee reports could be good also.
Yeah, agree with that. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Philippe. It's really pleasure to have you here, and we are hoping to have you probably in the next 2 months or 3 months, right? To invite you for coming back here.
We could do a Christmas special. Okay.
Because actually I will say in the next 2 months, and I said, oh, Christmas. Oh, okay, 3 months probably.
That's fine. If you want to do something in December, I'm happy to, because I have quite a big teaching load in semester 2. So if you want to do something in December, it would suit me very well.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow, it's a great, wow, it is an honor for us, I think.
No, it's no honor. I'm glad to help. I'm very happy to help.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay,
Professor
bye
Philippe.
now.
Okay, thank you so much for having you. It's quite a very great session, and we have a lot of attendees here, participants who raise some questions, a lot of questions. So if you have any forward questions, you can email. I think we can email you directly. Is it okay,
Yes,
Professor
you
Philippe?
can do so. Absolutely.
You already share the email, your email address. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
For all of them, for all of the participants. And thank you so much for Professor Philippe. We will hoping to meet you again soon. Okay?
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I will send back to Mr. Romy, Dr. Romy. Time is yours, Pak Romy.
Okay, thank you very much.
You are the owner of this event.
No, the department owns the event, actually.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Didi. And thank you very much, Pak Philippe. Sorry. Okay, so Pak is like a Mister in English. Okay. So it's such an honor to so it's such an honor to have you in our event, and hopefully we will see you in other event.
Great. Happy to help.
Okay, so thank you very much for all the participants, and we will send you the e-certificate, like and also the material for this workshop. Okay, so good afternoon. Have a good day. Have a good day.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good morning
Bye
to
now.
Professor Philip. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Send
Assalamualaikum
my
Bye.
warm
warahmatullahi
regards to your
wabarakatuh.
family.
Bye. Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.